Hi, I am Mahalakshmi Arun Rajkumaran, co-founder of Consult Kriba. Today in this video, we are going to see about India's target for 2030, US dollars $2 trillion in exports. That is USD $1 trillion for service exports and USD $1 trillion for goods exports. We at Consult Kriba audit, strategize, position and automate Indian exporters' sales and growth. So let's go deep into India's mission to achieve this export target. Currently, India's exports is at US dollars 863 billion. That combines both service and goods exports. But our target is US dollars 2 trillion. That means India should be growing at the rate of 18.3%. But currently, our exports annual growth is 5%. Actually, we should be growing at 18.9% for service exports and 17.7% for merchandise exports. But currently, our merchandise exports growth for the last 1 year is approximately 1%. For the last 5 years, we are growing only at the rate of 6.9%. So India has been taking different measures to increase our exports like market access, manufacturing, logistics, finance kind of support and digital reach. This is where reverse sourcing method helps Indian MSMEs to utilize these opportunities for their revenue growth. Let's see the first measure, which is trade agreement. India has different kind of trade agreements like CETA, CEPA, EFTA, FTA. So the 9 FTA network covers 38 different countries, which is an access to 27 trillion plus US dollar worth of market access. For example, UK-India CETA agreement gives 99% of Indian products duty-free access to UK, whereas the 99.5% of India's export value comes from this preferential access. So India-UAE bilateral merchandise is about $100 billion, whereas the non-oil exports from India to UAE is $27.4 billion and from India to Australia it is $8.5 billion. So EFTA, UK, EU, all of these are quality intensive markets. The standards are very high. So in the 2024-25, so India's goods to EU is at US dollars 75.85 billion dollars. So if we see Indian products get access to these markets based on different tariff lines, HS codes, and it should meet the origin requirements, and Indian exporters should ensure that we meet the standards, labels, registration, and we should also make sure whether this is viable for our buyers, the landed cost, our product proof, quality proof, and the relationship with the existing buyers. This is where Indian MSMEs should ask very important questions. These bilaterals give access to these markets, but has it really grown our value-added exports? Have we proven that our products, our origins utilizes these preferences? Okay, we have zero duty, but we have to also ensure whether our non-tariff technical barriers remains the same or it changes. For example, labels for food products, allergen disclosure, packaging, quality certificates, all of this we should ensure are in place. FTA markets are opened, but the buyers don't really rush to buy from India. This is where Indian exporters should be very clear what type of buyer we are going to do business with: manufacturers, distributors, commercial agents. All of these trade agreements, it would take time for India to see the benefits. At this point of time, MSME should understand the value chain and should ensure where they can benefit from this. And we also have strong competition. This should make India's advantage in the international market for MSMEs to expand to new markets. So, as per reverse sourcing method, it's great that we have agreements with different markets, but you have to first check whether the products what we offer as per the tariff lines, the HS codes, whether those are the products which are in demand in the international market, in a particular market, which type of buyers we are going to do business with, whether they accept our quality, our compliances, and whether there is real market demand that would be growing. The next engine is the manufacturing. This is where Indian government has different schemes. One of it is product linked incentive. As per this scheme, there are 14 sectors which has benefited about 2.16 trillion rupees worth of investments have gone into these sectors, namely electronics, automotive, healthcare. So the cumulative production and sales have grown to 20.41 trillion rupees, and which has contributed to 8.3 trillion Indian rupees. Whereas we are looking to achieve 12 times of this in exports, from 8.3 trillion Indian rupees to at least 193 trillion plus Indian rupees in exports. This has created a job of 1.4 million plus direct and indirect jobs. So when a product get exported from India, 96% of it is from MSME, which creates at least up to 4 direct and indirect jobs. So we could see some of the sectors which have benefited from this PLI schemes, electronics being one of the sectors. The production has gone up 6 times, exports have grown up 8 times, and we have also achieved the PLI export targets. But India has up to 97 sectors. Though it does have a very good impact in the mobile manufacturing units operating in India, it should go even deeper, like chips and displays, camera, battery modules, and different components that are needed for this product. And the another sector is the pharma exports. So till September 2025, we have exported about 2 lakh crores worth of pharma from India. India has an ambitious $100 billion worth of roadmap for textiles, where we have very good raw material, skilled laborers, clusters. So PLI scheme is for textile industry as well, which in exports we have about 37.7 billion US dollar worth of export had happened in financial year 2024-25. But the Indian Export Ministry has a goal of 9 trillion rupees in exports for 2030. That is through $100 billion worth of exports to be achieved from Indian textile industry. So these manufacturing policies definitely benefits large firms. But what about the MSME? Are you aware of these schemes? How are you utilizing this scheme? Which are the components that can be competitively produced in India? Can you run a unit competitive with or without subsidy? Whether you have enough buyers network so that your business can run with or without these subsidies, the revenue keeps coming into your business. Can you prove your consistency and quality? Your specification and your services makes the buyers come to you again and again, and whether it protects your margin. So these are the very important questions Indian exporters should ask. This is where we connect to buyer type in reverse sourcing method. What kind of buyer do you want to be? Do you want to supply to a particular brand, or do you want to be a OEM private label, or just a supplier in the international market, or a design partner? The global value chain, what kind of role do you want to play, and how this scheme can help your business? The next one is the logistics. This is where the infrastructure improvement helps Indian exporters, because even today Indian exporters have a challenge in providing the prices at the fastest time possible. We have always received feedbacks from importers that one challenge importers face with Indian exporters, the quotations take time. Whereas if they go to our competing countries, it just takes hours for them to quote the price. So this is where Indian exporters should focus and ensure you are always ready with the price. And this Gati Shakti scheme is to build India's infrastructure first and last mile gaps. So there are 352 projects evolved by Network Planning Group. 16.10 trillion rupees worth of projects have been evaluated. Rail projects have been sanctioned up to 300, and the rail length through this project estimated to be 13,808 kilometers. These all looks good, but these improve marginal performance of Indian logistics. But as an Indian exporter, you have to ensure how it could it could help you in your logistic pricing, whether this can still make it competitive for you and your buyer. So even the majority of our exports move through sea, which is the most cost effective, but we have to ensure from a factory to final buyer, are we properly connected, which kind of transport can help us, and how effectively we can plan our logistics. This is where reverse sourcing method helps Indian exporters, ensuring they provide good service to their buyers, whether it is lead time, route, whatever the timing the buyer have to plan. Because export is different from local supply. In local supply, your schedule doesn't matter much than in an international market, where a buyer would have planned an installation, they would have planned a distribution, because a delay in a logistics will reflect in different cost for your buyers. The next important one is the finance, the access to money. India has an export promotion mission that covers different area of Indian exports, which provides financial and non-financial support like Niryat Protashan, Niryat Disha, Lift, Flow, trade fairs, reverse seller buyer seller meeting. All of this put together to help Indian exporters. So that is 25,060 crore over 6 years under one framework. Though these financial supports may exist, this is not a funding against your LC. This is not a funding against your invoice. This is, you have to still prove that you have done the order, you have necessary inventory to cover the purchases, to cover the export orders. So, though these financial interventions are there, Indian exporters should prove your capability to supply in the international market. Till February 2026, approximately 3,000 exporters have registered for interest support, 60 have registered for collateral support, and about 48.58 officially reported MSMEs through the schemes they share in exports. So it is important Indian exporters should plan your finance clearly, where you need the investment, whether it is to cover your logistic, to cover your compliances, to cover your production or inventory. So most of these 6 schemes support the manufacturer exporters than the trading merchant exporters. For merchant exporters, you have to prove your 3 years of exports credibility, and there are only debt financing mechanisms are available for merchant exporters. The next important one is the digital and district exports. Here, Indian government have identified 765 districts with products that could be exported in the international market, and there are 590 draft district plans by March 2026, and 249 plans have been notified at this stage. 36 states have already have export promotion mechanisms. So this is where it's very important. Indian exporters should stay connected with your state government initiatives, district initiatives, because this is where an exporter can get help in quality, testing, packaging, logistics, finance, market access. I recently heard from one of such association there have been a certain number of reverse buyer-seller meeting have already been conducted. Even the buyers are ready to do business with Indian exporters, but the challenge is Indian exporters are not clear with the packaging, the process, the price calculation. So Indian exporters, you have to ensure that you are well prepared before you try to get your first export order or your next export order. So this recent reforms also helps in e-commerce exports. So through courier, 10 lakh cap has been removed for electronic processing, risk-based clearance, return to origin route, rejected parcels has been, the process have been simplified. Around 1000 plus Dak Niryat Kendra postal initiatives have been initiated, and in finance, e-commerce credit, overseas inventory facility, flow support have been provided. So for all of this, you should have DGFT. For all of this, you should have DGFT access, because for all of these incentives, you should have to register your interest LOI through the DGFT portal. So this is where you have to ensure which SKU has a demand, which kind of marketplace you can focus. You have to understand the fulfillment, the landing cost. Will a buyer buy repeatedly from you? How does the returns mechanism work? The fulfillment works. This is very important. That helps not only the e-commerce exports but also different stages of export process. So we have seen the 5 engines that is to propel India's export target by 2030, that is trade agreements, manufacturing schemes, logistics, finance, digital and district. But if you're still not sure how to grow your export business, where are your opportunities, what kind of buyers to target, which are the markets that have better opportunity for you, this is where reverse sourcing method helps, where Kriba helps you with identifying the best markets, right buyer types, and automate your exports everyday activities. I hope you would have found this video useful for your business, understanding different policies, different opportunities and support system exists for export business. So if you want to get regular market and policy updates, yes, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel. We also have an exclusive WhatsApp community called India 2030, where we regularly share different market updates, policy updates and sectoral wise networking. So please do join. I'll meet you in the community networking. Thank you.